and welcome to this video. Today I want to talk about the Arno profile system. You see the logo in the top left hand corner? That's with the National Christian Counselors Association's logo, and that's who we're affiliated with, and they have a clinical diagnostic tool called the Arno profile system. I'm going to give you a very brief overview of that system. You can visit our websites there below, or certainly either Google it on the internet to gain more of an understanding about the Arno profile system. I want to talk about what it is and why it's important, why we use it. It is a temperament analysis tool that was developed by Drs. Richard and Phyllis Arno of the National Christian Counselors Association. Basically, there's 54 questions that get answered very quickly, generates a profile, very, very accurate, and it's used by Christian counselors all over the world to help us counsel more effectively. All right, this model looks at a person's temperament needs. And we use the word temperament as opposed to personalities. Personalities are masks that people can put on. They have different personalities when we go to work or go to church, and it can certainly change in course. Maybe if people have too much to drink, their personalities change. But the temperament is geared towards the way God made us, with certain needs that we have in different areas. And as we'll see, yes, our needs, and we can evolve and change over time, if you like. Our temperament needs and our weaknesses can be transformed. But this is really the way God made us, and it looks at it in three different areas. One is in our need, if you like, for social orientation, or called control. How social are we? Do we need to be around a lot of people? Are we much happier being alone? And then there's a spectrum there. Then there's a spectrum in terms of our needs for control, our need to maintain and establish relationships with respect to power and control. There's people who like to be in charge and very good in social situations and taking charge. Others are much more laid back and much more dependent, and if you like, and so we're going to look at this, at the realm there, the spectrum there. And the third area is our need for affection, our need for love and affection, and need to maintain and establish deep personal relationships. That's how this model is geared, and it looks, and as you'll see, it looks at a person in each of these three areas. The idea is now, if we understand our needs, our God-given temperaments, then we have an opportunity really to get those needs met in godly ways, or they're going to get met in ungodly ways, or not met at all, which is ungodly, and problems are going to happen. And the idea is we have a choice, but it begins with understanding our needs. And as you can imagine, not only our needs, but if you're married or have a relation, have children, then understanding their needs, you see, then we're better able to meet them when we understand what the needs are. Okay, once again, very briefly, this is the model that the NCCA uses. There's a need that we express on the bottom axis from low to high, and there's a need that we respond to that we actually have, and that's low to high. And you see, as a result, we have this this square there, and the temperament types that are the names, the labels that are used are in each of these quadrants. There's supine, melancholy, sanguine, and choleric, and phlegmatic. Now, many of you are going to recognize these terms, at least four of them, but the supine temperament was added by the Arnos. It's the fifth temperament, and we're going to explain a little bit more on this in the next slide. But this is the spectrum. You see, melancholies have a low expressed need, low responsive; choleric, high expressive, low responsive, and so on. You can see there, and phlegmatics is kind of one there that's in the middle. In general, and you see the top left-hand corner there, temperament characteristics associated with these temperaments. And these are very broad and very general, I understand it, but we see melancholies being more of the loner type people. Cholerics are the dominant ones that take charge folks. Supines have a lot of gentle and indirect behaviors, expect people to know, be able to read their mind, if you like, know what they're thinking. The sanguines tend to be very high highs and low lows. They need people. They're just balls of fire, they're just very, very much out there, if you like. And the phlegmatics, that grouping, tend to be characterized as peacemakers and generally have low energy type folks. So those are very general characteristics of the different temperaments. This profile measures a person's inborn temperament, not their personality. And once again, alerts us to tendencies. We have strengths. We can use those to bless others. And if there's weaknesses there, and that's where this temperament does it, the report that we get shows, and when we go over, there are certain weaknesses that people have. It's like, Lord, transform me in these areas. It's not an excuse for sin or bad behavior. We can't use that and say, well, that's just how I am. It's like, no, the promise is as we yield, we'll be transformed into the likeness of Christ. But we need to know where we're coming from, and that's where this model can help. no better or worse temperament types, just strengths and weaknesses. Sometimes people look and say, gee, I wish I had a certain temperament. I wish it was this way. Hey, God knows what he's doing. He made us a certain way. And once again, if we understand the need, our need or our spouses or children's need, we can meet those needs in godly ways. We need to make sure they're met in godly ways, or problems and sinful behaviors are result. And if we know, for instance, our spouse's need using that, then we have an opportunity, a choice to meet those needs. When we meet with clients, we go over their temperament with them, and we use this tool. We use PowerPoint and put their specific temperament up and go over it. We have their report and go over it with them. But for instance, in this particular mythical client, this person is supine in inclusion, choleric in control, and phlegmatic, sanguine in affection. We go over this with them, and it's not unusual for a person to be different in different areas. Like here we have this person's choleric in control. They express a high need for control and want very little control over their own life, and so that's a choleric in control. And we go over these, we go over the strengths and weaknesses in each of these areas, but that's generally, the flow of it, how it goes, and then we use that to counsel them more effectively. Why and how is this profile helpful? Once again, if we understand our needs and others, then we're in a better position to meet those needs. And you see it in black and white, very much what our needs are. And once again, we're not locked in or doomed to a certain, it's not an excuse for bad behavior, but it just understands the differences that we have. And as we understand that, it will explain our approach to many areas of our life, how we approach things, our need for socialization, how much alone time, downtime do we need, how do we deal with finances, how do we deal with communications. There's different temperament have different ways of doing this, and so this can be very, very helpful. Once again, shows areas of weakness where we need the Lord to transform us or change us. For instance, some temperament types are very prone to rejection, and so if they understand that that's a weakness, then they can be on guard to that and say, no, I'm not going to receive that, you see. And that comes into the last point that's on this slide where we are spirit beings. We're in a spiritual war. The demonic kingdom is out to kill, steal, and destroy. And, they have an opportunity to observe us. They hear what we say, see what we're doing. And so they're going to use tactics and strategies that are going to build and try to exacerbate our weaknesses. So if we understand those, then we're going to perceive and can purpose to not be vulnerable in those areas. In other words, I'm not going to receive rejection if the demonic kingdom tries to bring that upon us. So that's an area also where it helps us fight and wage spiritual warfare more effectively. Once again, that's a very brief, and I understand, very brief overview. I encourage you to visit our website for more information. We explain the temperament types more. We do these profiles for people, and they're very helpful in counseling situations. But wanted you to understand the terminology and how it's used, and we hope it was beneficial. Thank you for watching.